So when you think about fat loss forever, what kind of comes to mind? For me, I have a pyramid that I typically will take people through, and we kind of focus on working our way up the pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid being the most important foundation and aspect, then we kind of slowly increase and add different pieces to the whole plan and regimen. But what I see time and time again with clients and just people in general with fitness or nutrition, they don't really have something that they deem sustainable and they can actually adhere to. So that'll be my first portion of the pyramid. So sustainability and adherence. Basically, when you think of those two words, you want to find a workout regimen, a nutrition regimen, a routine for your day-to-day life, what you do on the weekends, something that you can actually adhere to and sustain for a prolonged period of time. Now, granted, we have different periods where we may be a little bit more aggressive with the diet, we may be a little bit more intense with the exercise, depending on if you have like a competition or something coming up. Totally understandable. Now, with this though, for 98% of people out there, this can mean I prefer high fat, I prefer high protein, I prefer low carb, I prefer high carb. None of these really make a difference when it comes to the whole bigger picture of everything. As long as you're having protein, and then we'll get into our next step, foundational step here in a second. But for the most part, find something you can actually sustain and adhere to, and your journey will be light years ahead of everyone else. Now, number 6. So, the next foundational piece to our pyramid with fat loss forever is the caloric deficit. Now, you can sit here and say calories in, calories out is a myth, blah, 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 blah. The law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So when you ingest energy, it has to go somewhere. When you expend energy, it has to go somewhere, right? So basically, we have to find a way to have our activity level higher than the amount of energy that we take in. With this, we will then lose weight, you will then lose fat, so on and so forth. If you are eating or intaking too much energy, you will gain weight, you will gain mass, you will gain fat potentially. Now, you can't have sustainability and adherence, or you can't have a caloric deficit without sustainability and adherence. So if you were to try to flip these and just focus on the caloric deficit, you wouldn't sustain the caloric deficit, and you wouldn't be able to adhere to whatever you're trying to do, right? So they're gonna start stacking on top of each other. This is gonna help us kind of create a big picture as to what's going to be the most important when it comes to fat loss forever. The next piece of our fat loss pyramid is exercise. I can't rate for shit, so don't judge me on that. Now, the main reason exercise is so important when it comes to the grand scheme of things with fat loss forever, they have done studies upon studies where basically those who regain the weight they lost and those who have maintained the weight they lost. Of the group that maintained the weight they lost, 70% of them exercised. Of the group that regained all the weight they lost, 30% of them exercised. So people will sit here and say that exercise isn't important. It's not something that you need to worry about. You just gotta dial in your nutrition and everything will take care of itself. I 100% disagree. If you are trying to tackle one or the other, nutrition is an important aspect of that, but there are so many benefits when it comes to exercise as well, just to help you kind of get into a solid regimen. And if you have that motivation initially, right, that motivation to step into the gym as well as get your food dialed in, as long as you can sustain and adhere to it, do it, right? It's going to be harder to wait down the road and fucking try to dial in your training when you've been doing your nutrition for 3 months. That motivation that you currently have to start is already waning, right, at that 3 month mark. Now, another reason exercise is so important, exercise actually decreases hunger levels. People who typically don't exercise, their hunger cues are kind of all over the place. And basically what this does is just get our hunger cues in line. So there's different things that kind of signal our body throughout the day to prepare itself for certain things, like eating, seeing light, exercising, caffeine intake. All those kinds of things are different signals to our body to help us move into the right direction. So if you eat at the same time every day, you're probably going to get hungry at the same time every day. If you train at the same time every day, your body's gonna be ready for that, and you're gonna perform better if you train like that every single day. Now, that being said, there's also the fact of muscle mass that comes into everything. Once you continue the exercise, you actually build up into increasing amounts of muscle mass. You are then increasing nutrient partitioning, which is a whole different other thing that we won't even get into in this episode, so to speak. Number 4 of our fat loss forever pyramid: self-monitoring. Yes, accountability is important. Let me write this down first. If you don't know where your money's going, how do you buy a house, right? I harp on this time and time and time again with clients, individuals I talk to, anything and everything. I don't want to track, I can't, tracking doesn't matter, it's inaccurate. If you are consistently tracking inaccurately, it is still consistent. So whether you need to increase, decrease calories, whatever it may be, whatever you choose to do it consistently, sustainability and adherence. And those inconsistent tracks or measurements or whatever, if you're off by 100, you will consistently be off by 100, right? There's a analogy Dr. Layne Norton uses. Basically, if you play a game of laser tag and your gun is slightly shooting to the left, you know how to correct for that. You slightly shift to the right, and then you can kind of hit the target every single time. But if you are switching your gun every single time and every gun shoots in a completely different direction, you are then not going to know what you're eating. You're not going to know what you're expending energy-wise. You're not going to know what's actually going on. So the best thing to do is to be consistently inconsistent. Yeah, I think I said that right. In anything, right? And so with self-monitoring, you're only with a coach, aka me, for an hour, maybe 45 minutes per day. You can email me, text me, the whole 9 yards, but I can't stop you from eating said cookie. I can't force you to track the food. But I always come back to the money analogy. If you aren't checking your finances, if you aren't saving up for that house, you're never gonna get the house. You're just gonna hopefully one day walk into this magical house that you just so happen to purchase and have the exact amount of money for. It's just not gonna happen. The third pillar on the pyramid: protein and fiber. Now, why is that important? So, when it comes to protein and fiber, protein has the highest thermic effect of food of all the macronutrients. Now, that doesn't mean you can just fucking smash protein and you're just gonna burn copious amounts of energy, but protein is going to make you feel more full. Same thing with fiber. If you are prioritizing protein and fiber throughout your entire day, you're going to be more full, more satisfied with your meals, etc. As well as protein being the building blocks of amino acids, which are the building blocks of us. We are then going to have higher levels of amino acids in the bloodstream. We are going to have higher probability that we're going to build muscle off the long run. So protein is very important. Fiber is super important for digestive health, as well as, again, feeling full, feeling satiated. So you can see why this would be on the platform when it comes to fat loss forever. Now, obviously we have 2 other macronutrients, carbs and fats. These are also important because we need to be energized, we need to be fueling ourselves, we need to be fueling hormone production and all of that. So let me write that down. Carbs and fats. Important for energy. Your body has a bunch of different ways it can basically take proteins, carbs, or fats and turn them into the energy that we need. Your body breaks everything down into glucose, so it can use different pathways to create different energy sources. But your body likes to rely on glucose or carbohydrates for fast, high intensity stuff, fats for kind of longer duration stuff. Protein is obviously just important for maintaining muscle mass, as well as just having a great functioning body. Amino acids, protein, are more than just for muscle. You actually use a very small percentage of the protein you intake for muscle building purposes. Your body doesn't really care about building muscle like we might think it does. So a lot of the protein goes to other endeavors, tissues, bones, all that kind of stuff, so that it actually helps the body function properly and function optimally. Now, the last pillar on the fat loss forever pyramid is going to be supplements. Subs. So when it comes to this pyramid, as we kind of looked at it, you start at the bottom, sustainability and adherence, and you've kind of built your way up. A lot of people have this shit reversed. They kind of focus on the 1%, and think that is going to get them the results they want. Now that we've had this conversation together, we kind of know that that's bullshit. You basically can't have supplements without the rest of this list. Supplements are there to supplement a healthy food diet and regimen, or fitness regimen, so to speak. They're good. Most of them are shit. There's a few you can kind of note on that might be more bang for your buck than others, but majority of the time, all of this other shit is 10 times more important. And like I was kind of saying before, you basically need this before you can move up the pyramid. So if you don't have 7, 6, 5, and 4, don't even think about 3, 2, and 1, right? Like obviously these are important, but if you can't sustain anything, if you can't put yourself in a caloric deficit, if you can't exercise, if you can't self-monitor, none of this matters because it's gonna be so far inconsistent and so far gone that you're just gonna be fucked. If you took something away from this, please give me a thumbs up. I did not come up with this. This is just a great kind of frame of reference for people that I like. Eric Helms, I believe, was the original creator from this through Mass Review. They do a lot of good shit over there, a lot of scientific breakdowns. But for me, with coaching, I've kind of taken this in a sense that like I didn't even realize I was focusing on it in this direction, right? Any good coach is going to just meet the client where they're at. And so depending on where you're at in your fitness and nutrition regimen, this stuff is super important. It's literally the fun. Like if you can't get this, you might as well stop, but don't stop. So sustainability adherence. There's actually another one that Lane Norton actually posits on this. So the last or the bottom of the actual pyramid would be behavior and then lifestyle. And I think that was fucked, but I think you get what I'm saying. When it comes to behavior and lifestyle, you basically have a certain means to shift into what direction you kind of want to change your life, right? You only have like a certain amount of energy with that. If you throw out your behavior and lifestyle, it's gonna be very hard to do. But if you just completely fucking shuck it out, like let's say I'm coaching someone and I expect them to do X, Y, and Z because I like to do X, Y, and Z, it's probably not gonna work for them. You have to figure out what is going to work for said client, right? It's a kind of client-centric approach. Now, if you are focusing more so on coaching yourself, you have to focus on obviously, what can I realistically do? What are my typical behaviors? What is my lifestyle currently like? And how can I start making small shifts to push towards a lifestyle maybe I enjoy more or what I want to actually live like? But if you were to try to take basically everything fun out of your life right away, it's going to be very challenging. I think it's realistic to say that you can make small focused tweaks week to week on what you actually want to focus on. Like let's say this week, I just want to hit 200 grams of protein every single day. If you can do that consistently for a week, 2 weeks, fucking solid. Now add something to that, right? Okay, so I got my grams of protein. Now I want to make those protein grams more whole foods because I've been living off shakes and I'm shitting my brains out. Shift to more whole foods. So what meat choices do we have? We have chicken, we have steak, we have egg whites, we have seafood, we have all that kind of shit, right? This is just the first video of many. I will probably have a shirt on for the other videos. This was kind of just a random inspirational type shit that I just kind of was feeling a creative bug for, and I decided to hop up and kind of video it. And